Valentino is probably the most divisive character in Hazbin Hotel. Season 2 was marketed as the season of the V's, but in practice only Vox ended up mattering. Val does get more characterization than Velvet, who more or less just exists, and opinions on that are split. Some people like seeing more depth in him, others hate it. Personally, I'm somewhere in the middle. Let me start with the positive. I don't mind Valentino having traits outside of being a rapist. Alastor is a serial killer who loves jambalaya and radios, and nobody complains about that. Giving Valentino character traits like speaking in Spanish or enjoying drawing makes him feel more like a real person. And that actually matters, because abusers aren't supernatural monsters. They are people. In order to protect ourselves and recognize abusive behaviors, we need to accept that fact, as uncomfortable as it might be. I personally think that not having one-dimensional villains is beneficial for the show, especially if they want to reinforce the, in my opinion, somewhat questionable idea that even the worst people can be redeemed or have some redeeming qualities. But here's where I hit problems. Despite being one of the show's central abusers, Valentino barely interacts with Angel or anyone else in Season 2. His predatory behavior is referenced only once and then never again until the finale. When the show stops reminding the audience what he actually is, people, especially younger viewers, start filling in the blanks. I've seen comments interpreting his sadness as concern for Angel, when the scene is clearly about losing power to Vox and his control over Angel. Val doesn't care about Angel does. We've seen that repeatedly. It isn't the show's fault if children who shouldn't even be watching it misread the scene, but it's still upsetting that it happened. Going back to Valentino getting more characterization, I've pondered about it, and I think I know why this choice irritates me. This show loves to flesh out its villains, but not the main cast. It's fine that Valentino likes to draw, but why did Virzipop feel the need to make a drawing tutorial with Valentino on her channel? Out of all the characters, why give the spotlight to him? I wish I knew a quarter of what I know about Valentino about literally anyone else in the hotel. Why should I care that Valentino was born in Florida when, for example, I still know next to nothing about Husk? He gets involved in all the hotel activities and clearly has a soft spot for Angel. But what does he think about redemption? What was his life like when he was alive? And that's about as much indication as we've gotten about Angel Dust 2, who is apparently taking redemption seriously, despite his views about what redemption means to him being entirely unaddressed. He wants to be redeemed, but why? Is it just to get away from his self-destructing lifestyle? Or does he genuinely want to overcome his flaws? And what does he think a redeemed lifestyle would look like for him? For instance, does he want to escape his lifestyle, or just Valentino in particular? He seems otherwise quite comfortable and happy with his work, has a thriving social life, and no consequences for irresponsible indulgence in his vices. He says redemption isn't really for people like him. But why? Does he think his sin is something impossible to redeem? Does he think he doesn't personally have the willpower to redeem himself and that it's too much effort? I don't have any issues with giving villains depth. But the problem is that we are on Season 2 and I still don't really know the main cast. I can glean superficial details about what some of them want, but nothing deeper than that. Yet I can probably construct a full psychological profile of Valentino and Vox. Great, Valentino likes to draw, but before that, I would like to know why Angel Dust thinks killing his dad is such a big deal, given he's had no shame or guilt dressing up as a mafioso every now and then. I think it's an issue with the show if I'm less invested in the main cast over the V's, because the latter group are the ones who've received more characterization and who possess a more developed relationship and group dynamic. And now I finally want to address the moth in the room. Remember how I praised the humor in the good section? Forget about it because episode 2 has this joke.
When have I ever hit him?
I tried to put myself in Vivi's position and understand what her thought process behind this joke was, and I genuinely don't understand how it's supposed to be funny. Did she expect us to react like this? Some people say that this actually wasn't a joke, and I say bullshit. To properly portray that this wasn't a joke, they could have easily leaned on that by animating Angel to look properly scared and in pain. But Vivi chose to animate those clips so Angel would look silly while being hit. His eyes bug out, he makes funny faces, and there are funny sound effects when he gets hit. Those who tried to defend this scene say that it makes sense that it's played as a joke because it's from Val's point of view. Let's explain why this excuse doesn't hold up. Remember the infamous Pensius scene from Season 1? That one was from his point of view. He clearly didn't find it funny, and the scene was still played out as a joke. It's not surprising that Vox and Valentino find this funny. They strike me as the type of people who would probably laugh when reading this manga. The problem is that the show wants you to laugh with them. If this scene's purpose was just to show that Val gets joy out of hurting Angel, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's in character for him to find it funny. but the joke shouldn't be framed in a way where the audience too thinks the abuse is funny. Those slapstick sound effects are really unnecessary and make Angel, the one getting abused, the butt of the joke. How can I laugh watching this when Season 1 showed me how much Val has physically and mentally scarred Angel? I think they wrote themselves in a corner because Angel's character relies on the audience feeling bad for him and for Angel himself to lack agency in his abusive situation. When the abuser is suddenly treated like a quirky villain instead of someone who inflicted real harm, there's tonal whiplash. Especially in a show that insists on treating sexual assault seriously, except when it doesn't. If the show was a dark comedy, it's possible the public would feel less conflicted about Valentino not being terrible all the time. But this show wants to treat the subject of rape seriously, and since episode 4 of season 1 imprinted the perspective of Valentino as a monster very hard, it's no surprise that this joke upset people. I can't believe I have to reiterate it, but rape is not funny. So yes, giving a villain more human traits can be good. But prioritizing the development of a rapist over the development of your protagonists creates a tonal mess, and it's no surprise people are uncomfortable with it.